Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Advanced WordPress Theme Development. In this video, we are going to talk about what are web components and why we should use them. And then in the next video, we're going to talk about how to implement web components in a WordPress theme. So first question, what are web components? Well, web components is a suite of different technologies that allow you to create reusable custom elements with their functionality encapsulated away from the rest of your code and utilize them in your web apps. So what does mean in simple words? So in simple words, web components allow you to create custom elements where you can encapsulate all of the functionality of that component inside of it, and it does not leak outside of that component. Let's say you put in events on that component, you have put some logic inside of component on an attribute changed callback, etc. And you can reuse the same component elsewhere, and you don't have to rewrite the JavaScript for that. So let me give you an example. So let's take a look at this search application. So over here, you can see that we have multiple input checkboxes, right? You have adventure, games, movies. Now, if you were to write some JavaScript on this, for example, if you click on this, then something should happen, like the post should get loaded or the URL should get updated and all of those things, right? Or if you click on this one, then the children gets opened. So rather than writing the JavaScript for each one of them, you could actually convert this HTML element into a web component. So if you inspect element, you'll see that you have this component, the Aquila checkbox accordion child, as a custom HTML element. So you can choose the name whatever you want. You usually prefix it with our theme name or something that shouldn't collide with something else. So we prefix it with something and then we can just name it whatever we want. We can choose any name that's more semantic. Okay. So whatever JavaScript you're going to write on this one will be encapsulated. So anything that you write for input or span or, the icon, any JavaScript that you write, everything will be encapsulated inside of it. It's not going to leak outside of this component. Okay, so everything remains inside of it. And then you can reuse the same component multiple times. You can see you have a checkbox accordion child, 1, 2, 3, and so on, and depending on how many ever you want it. Okay, so whatever functionality you're going to write on this one, whatever JavaScript you write for this one is going to be automatically be available every time you use it. And let's say you apply an event on it. For example, you apply an event inside of this on this on this icon, right? So whenever this element comes into the DOM, that event is going to be applied, and the moment it leaves the DOM, the events go away along with that. So we don't really have to do remove event listener and all of those things. It just handles that. And it also offers you different other features like different attributes that you can use. So instead of like using data attribute, data hyphen attribute, you can just write whatever attribute you want. Let's say if I want to pass some value inside of it, right? Like value equals hello. I can write that. Okay. And then if I want to grab hold of that particular value, I can just get hold of the element and then I just say get attribute value, and you can see that you get that hello. You could also set attributes. So you can say set attribute value equals value will be world. Okay, so if you hit it, if you go back and check, you can see that the value becomes as world now. Okay, so lots of benefits that it offers. You can add custom events on this one. You can emit events through this. You can listen to a particular attribute change. Let's say that this particular value changed. You can do something basis that. So you can listen to multiple attribute changes, and based on that change, you can perform certain actions. Okay, so we will look at all of that when we actually implement this web component into our search application. But for now, I just wanted to just give you a small gist of how does it look like. So let's summarize why web components. Well, the first thing is that they encapsulate the JavaScript for that component. So no JavaScript including the events leak out of that component. So let me give you a very basic example of creating a web component and just show you its power. Okay. So when you want to create a web component, you basically, first of all, just define it like you would do with a normal p tag or h tag. You just give it a name. In my case, I'm giving it a prefix of Aquila and then just hyphen message. You can name it whatever you want. So you have an opening and closing tag like that. And then inside of that, you have your paragraph tag and a button, hello world. What we're trying to achieve with this web component is that when you click on this dark theme over here, and you click on it, this should get, background should get colored. The text should change to light theme. And when you click it back, it should go into the dark. It should go back to the light theme. So you can switch between dark and light theme. All right. So there are three key components. One is your HTML. So as you've already seen how you would write a HTML web component. And then in order for you to create an HTML component, you can pull the custom elements and HTML element from window. And then using the custom elements.define, so there's a method in the custom elements object called define. You can pass two parameters. First is the name of your component and then the class object. So we have our Aquila message, that's your class for this custom element, custom HTML element. So what we do is we say class Aquila message extends HTML element. Then we have the constructor method. We call the super method inside of that. And here we just grab hold of these elements. So if you want to grab hold of this paragraph element right here, then you say this dot query selector and then p tag and then p in the quotes. You don't really have to do the document dot query selectors because you are inside of, it's encapsulated, right? So you are going to be accessing anything inside of this or this component itself. So if you want to access, let's say this class or this attribute, you'll just say this dot get attribute and then theme. But if you want to access any of the elements inside of it, you'll say this dot query selector, then paragraph, this dot query selector button. Okay, that's how you basically access it. And all the JavaScript that you're writing here, as you can see, Aquila message, basically will be inside of this. Okay, so you can say this dot button dot add event listener. So we'll add an event on that on the click. And when you click, when the user clicks on it, in case it's going to get the attribute, is going to get the attribute value of theme, which is this guy. And currently it's light. So it's going to check if it is equal to dark, it's going to change it to light. But if it's not, which means if it's light, then it will change it to dark. Okay. So it's basically going to change the attribute value. Just going to basically toggle the attribute value from light to dark and dark to light, right? That's the whole job of this particular event is. Okay, that's all it does. Then we go down. What we're going to do next is that we're going to listen to this attribute change on this theme. So by the click of this button, we are trying to change the value of the theme attribute of this web component, right? So we're going to listen to that change. So whatever attribute we want to listen, let's say we want to listen to the theme, or let's say we want to listen to the class. You can listen to multiple custom elements. Right now, we just want to listen to the theme. So you pass all of that information in the array and return it through this function. And then inside of another function, which is basically a function of the HTML elements class, which is what we are extending, you get access to the name of the attribute. So all the attributes of this web component, the class, the theme, or if you've created any other attribute, let's say value equals hello, whatever. Okay, you're going to get access to that also. Okay, so all the attributes of this custom web elements, you will get access to that. Okay, then you're going to get access to the old value and the new value. So here we're going to check if name is not equal to theme, because in this case we're only trying to access one particular attribute and perform any action basis that. So we're just going to check if not equal to theme, and if old value is equal to new value, which means there's no change, then we're just going to do an early return. Otherwise, if the new value is equal to dark, then we are going to change the text content of this button right here, to light theme. Otherwise, we'll change it to dark theme. So we're basically going to change the text content of this, and that's what's happening here, and that's all there it is, right? And second thing is that anytime the attribute value changes, let's say from a light it becomes dark, what we do is we also change the background color and the color of the text. So background color becomes black and the color becomes white, and that's handled by the CSS. We're able to make use of the JavaScript CSS custom HTML element to create this functionality, right? So let's go ahead and check. I'm going to do an inspect element. And take a look, this is your web component, which is a custom HTML element. Web component, Aquila message, you have class, you have theme light, and inside of it you have the paragraph tag and button tag. Okay, so if I click on this button, notice this attribute changes to dark, and because we are listening to that attribute, we are saying that whenever an attribute change happens, this callback function will be called, this attribute change callback. It's going to check, is it not equal to theme? In this case, no, we have theme available as an attribute. So it's going to run further, and then new value becomes dark, right? New value becomes dark. So it's going to go ahead and set the text to light theme for this button. So that's what's happening here. This become lights. And in the CSS, because it's checking the value of the attribute, it's changing its color to a white and the background to black. And that's why you see that. And if you switch that back, you can see this comes back to light. And if it's light, then this becomes dark theme. The text content becomes dark theme, and according to CSS, it no longer has this value. So it's going to go back to the original CSS that was being applied, right? So this is a very simple example of, how you can do things like that. And then, now let me show you the magic of reusability. So if I put this back here one more time, right? And this time I change it to dark. Okay. So notice what happens. So now you can see that same web component reused, but with a different attribute value, right? Let me just put just distinguish it with this so you can see what's going on. So you can see this same component reused with a different attribute value, and accordingly things have changed. And notice that if I make change here to this web component, nothing is going to happen to the first one. So see, if I change it light theme, only this one changes, not that. It goes to light, dark, right? Similarly, if I change to this one, only that is being changed. So the whole logic, whole JavaScript, everything is encapsulated within this component. You can reuse this component multiple times. You can just paste it again, this time make it like light theme, right? And you can see that it becomes light theme. And again, if you make a change, it's not going to affect the others. So the entire event, everything is encapsulated, and you didn't have to write the JavaScript all over again. Once you've written it, the same JavaScript is going to be reused, even if you use this component multiple times, right? And that's what happened here. We are using this component multiple times to create our checkboxes. So there is more power that's available in this web component. Because they're lightweight, they're easy to use, you're absolutely going to love it. And when you see that we are using it in this, making this complex web application for search functionality, then you will fall in love with it. Okay, so let's quickly do a recap why we need web components. So as I explained earlier, that they encapsulate the JavaScript for that component. So no JavaScript, including events, leak out of that component. And it allows reusability, and that has traditionally not been so easy for custom markup structure. So you no longer have to write JavaScript, CSS, and HTML multiple times. You don't need to remove events, as when web component events come along, and when it leaves the DOM, events leave too. Okay, so and they consist of basically three main technologies which can be used together to create versatile custom elements with encapsulated functionalities. And you don't have to worry about the collision. It's not going to collide with the other components, even if you're reusing it. So first is the custom elements, which is a set of JavaScript APIs that allow you to define custom elements and their behavior. You have Shadow DOM, you might have heard about that. It's a set of JavaScript APIs for attaching encapsulated Shadow DOM tree to an element, which is rendered separately from the main document. You have HTML templates. You can use templates and slot elements that enable you to write the markup templates that are not displayed in the rendered page. Okay, so these are all the benefits of the web component. We will see all of that in action. You've just seen a small example. You can see more when we actually work on it. And that's about it. So I hope you did like the video. If you did, please give a thumbs up and do subscribe to my channel. If you aren't already, do consider giving super thanks to support my work and subscribing to my membership plans. And I'm going to see you in the next video. I'm pretty excited to build this one. I'm sure you are too. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.